All right, so I get to be MC and speak today. First, I want to thank everyone for joining us. And a special thank you to Ronnie for your generosity in letting us barge in this way, and to the rest of the family for letting us go, especially the kids. Thanks for letting us here, man. It's awesome. Today I'll be signing both an executive order and legislation to break down some of the barriers to more accessory dwelling units in this city. These kinds of in-law apartments, backyard cottages, and the like will create more affordable housing and more choices for people in Seattle. We'll create new opportunities for homeowners to age in place and to give families financial flexibility. With today's action, we are taking an important step towards creating a more affordable, welcoming Seattle for all. Since I've taken office, I've heard from way too many people about how hard it is to find a toehold in Seattle, and from even more people on how hard it is to keep the place they have. So many people in Seattle want flexibility and more affordable places to live. Our city's experienced just phenomenal job growth and economic prosperity. But at the same time, that prosperity has not been shared enough, and our rents and housing costs have skyrocketed. Prospects for homeownership are dim and harder, and it's also harder to find affordable rental units in neighborhoods like this. For Seattle to remain that equitable and just city of opportunity that we all want, we have to open the doors for more people to live in amazing places like this. So what will it mean for Seattle? We know that more ADUs will bring more opportunities for Seattle residents. ADUs bring more housing choices by creating new, long-term, affordable rental homes in single-family neighborhoods and in high-opportunity areas where people don't often have an opportunity to live. They also can mean more affordable housing options because they tend to be more affordable than renting a large house. For their owners, they can provide supplemental income that helps with covering mortgage payments or weathering the high cost of living in Seattle. Many people I've talked to in Seattle who were fortunate enough to get a home years ago before prices went up don't feel like they'll be able to cover their property taxes or rising costs and retire. We know that accessory dwelling units can also be good for the environment. They require fewer resources to construct and maintain, use less energy in cooling, and have more people together, so they support our long-term climate goals. They really offer greater flexibility for people of all ages and all stages. I know so many people who have lived in backyard cottages or mother-in-law apartments or over the garage, including myself. We need to have more of those alternatives available for families like we see here today, so that families can stay together but have their own spaces. We know that having that flexibility is going to allow more people to adapt to this changing, more expensive Seattle, maybe to accommodate a caregiver, maybe to accommodate family, maybe to have a renter. Finally, we know that ADUs can blend into the existing development context. New neighbors can live in neighborhoods in various ways and add to the character and fiber of that neighborhood, making it a better, more vital place. We know for a long time that there have been way too many barriers to creating more accessory dwelling units, and today's actions will cut down on those barriers. Today, I signed the legislation that amends our land use code to increase these affordable options for Seattle, to make it more flexible so more people have alternatives. I'm really honored and pleased to be able to share the time with Councilmember O'Brien, who's been in this trench for many years trying to get this legislation through. We know that this will improve Seattle, but we also know that the law also may not go far enough. So today I'm also signing an executive order that will reduce some of those regulatory barriers that might be barriers for people not to have accessory dwelling units. Construction costs can still be too high, especially for backyard detached cottages, and permitting can be complex and lengthy. I was talking to Ronnie and I said, "How long did it take you to build this?" And she said, "Well, it was about 2 years in permitting and 6 months to build." We got to change that. That's why my executive order directs our departments to break down those permitting and financial barriers Through the executive order, we will assist homeowners in the ADU design and permitting process by creating pre-approved DADU plan program, hiring a city person to help people navigate the process in order to get permitting, and develop a one-stop shop website so people can go there to get information and technical assistance on how to get this done. We will also pilot strategies that support low-income homeowners and low-income tenants, exploring, for example, new financing mechanisms so not just the wealthy can build a DADU, and pursuing innovative, cost-effective construction techniques. We will convene a working group of ADU designers, builders, owners, residents, environmentalists, and the like to provide educational opportunities such as tours and events to help homeowners who are thinking about doing this on ways they can do it smartly, efficiently, and improve our environment. Finally, we will monitor ADU development to ensure that our changes really do promote that city goal of creating more affordable, long-term housing throughout our Seattle neighborhoods. We want to make sure that we address some of the concerns that people have raised that we don't believe will be present, but we're going to be looking for that. For example, we know that the majority of tree cover in the city of Seattle exists in single-family neighborhoods. And it is critical not just to who we are as a city, but to our climate goals. So we're going to make sure we work with arborists and others to look at what that tree coverage is and whether the creation of ADU-DADUs has a negative impact that we need to mitigate in other areas. We also want to look at mobility needs. If we get this right and we create enough long-term affordable housing for more people, do we also need to add other infrastructure like bike infrastructure, pedestrian infrastructure, more transit? We want to make sure that our city grows smartly. I really want to thank our partners and city staff who have been running this marathon for a very long time. We will take this policy over the finish line. I want to acknowledge many people who've been doing it. It's been a tough road to get here, but I'm also happy to say we can and we will do more. I want to close by reminding everyone that accessory dwelling units, whether they be in the house or detached, are just one piece of what we have to do of a much larger puzzle of creating more affordable housing in every part of the city. There is no or. It has to be ands. We have to do it all. We need more affordable housing at every range in every part of our city. I want you to know that I'm committed to working with everyone to make sure we get that done and that we have every tool available. We also want to make sure that we have as much housing possible, not just for our low-income housing, but for our workers and middle-income people who are feeling more and more squeezed out of Seattle. Now I want to introduce you to the real star of the show, Ronnie Gillum, who is actually the person who lives here, so she can tell you more about what to say. I want to say it's really, I think it shows Seattle its very best. Her multi-generation family lives on this lot. She and her husband live in this great place. I'd love to live there. And you can see behind that her daughter's family is able to live here. Having that approach for a family gives so much to them and to our city and to this neighborhood. I want to thank everyone again for all the work they've done in making this a reality. And Ronnie, thanks for letting us bring just a few people into your backyard. All right. Where'd you go? There you are. All right, good job. You're on.
I'm going to bring up my daughter with me. Hello.
Close that for you so it's not distracting.
So I don't lose your speech.
You can. Do it again.
Hi, I'm Ronnie. This is Carrie, my daughter, Jerry in the background, and Josh, and my two wonderful grandchildren, Olivia and Dylan. About 3 years ago, we decided to move in here after my daughter and her husband offered us their backyard. Before that, we were contemplating where to live after we sold our house in West Seattle, and we're headed up north, somewhere out of Seattle, because we couldn't afford to buy another place here. You want to tell them what happened, process that you...
We didn't want them to be really far away. We were sad. We wanted them to be with the grandchildren and not have to make hours commute to see their family. We wanted them to be able to feel safe and know that if they got older that we could take care of them and we would be right here. And so we decided that we would offer them up our backyard so that they could be here and be close. And it's just been Absolutely lovely, and everybody that came through and built it and came up with this beautiful design, it's been wonderful. And then everybody's together, and we have Monday night family dinners, and they help out when we need help, and they watch our kitties, and the kids are delighted to go see them and visit every morning after they eat their breakfast. They come and play, and it's a really, really nice way to live, and we've thoroughly enjoyed it.
And on a very practical note, it was the most affordable option that we had. It provides us with housing and care. We're going to be aging in place here, so we are very happy that this is a wonderful alternative for us and others as well. And we want everybody to know that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, and also known as Wonder Woman and her younger brother. Next, I'd like to meet Matt Hutchins, who has not only been a stalwart supporter of making sure we get good, strong, smart ADU reforms, but he was a principal at Cast Architects, and which was the firm that designed this beautiful cottage. Matt.
Thank you. I'd like to, first off, thank you guys for opening your home to us and having us here. And thank you, Mayor Durkan, for supporting this very progressive land use reform. As an architect, as a housing advocate, environmentalist, and as a Seattleite, I think this is kind of a watershed moment for us in our city. Documents like the Land Use Code generally are not very exciting, but this one has generated a lot of interest, a lot of passion and opinion. That's because these are important statements of values. They get to decide who lives where and what kind of housing, where jobs are, and how we get to them. We want people to afford housing. We want people to have access to jobs, education, and open space. We want people to be near transit, to be part of vibrant neighborhoods that are walkable and bikeable, so we aren't burning up the planet. And we want to support households of all shapes, sizes, incomes, and ages. Now, in the past, the way we've zoned cities hasn't always reflected these values. It hasn't always been equitable, especially for communities of color, or sustainable. Now, this accessory dwelling unit reform begins to break down some of those barriers that have kept people from building one of these for themselves. This will speed up permitting, make construction less expensive, and loosen up many of the restrictions that are keeping people on the sidelines. It'll allow architects like me to focus on the challenge of designing great little houses for people. We know that ADUs are perfect for multi-generational households, for people wanting to age in place and stay close to family. And ADUs create flexible housing opportunities for those who don't need a big house and don't want to live in a large apartment building. And right now, we don't build a lot of things that are in between those two poles. ADUs are great for those who are looking to share housing costs or to earn extra rental income. And finally, they counter sprawl and they lower our carbon footprint. Now, this reform makes room for more new neighbors in our residential neighborhoods, and I think that makes them stronger, more diverse, and more welcoming. I look forward to the mayor's additional proposals to help people understand the process, explore city financing for affordable units, and lower sort of the barriers for permit costs. I'd like to thank Councilmember O'Brien for his vision and resolve, and then the hundreds of advocates who have turned up for abundant housing time and time again, especially Laura Lowe, Sherry Newbold, Chris Kim, Karen DeLucas, and Kirsten Smith of AIA Seattle. Back in 2015, when I started advocating for ADU reform, it was because I saw a future where my own kid might not be able to find a place that she could afford in the neighborhood she grew up in. And I didn't think that it would take more than 4 years to get to this point today, but it's been worth it because now we're making a little bit more room to share this great city, one that we can hopefully all proudly call home.
Before I introduce Mike, I just want to echo that, and I want people just to stop and listen for a minute. You heard kids laughing in the background. We're close to transit. We've got beautiful tall trees. More people in Seattle deserve to be able to live in places like this. that will strengthen our city and strengthen our neighborhoods. These kids are so much better off being this close to their grandparents, and their grandparents are better off being close to their kids and their grandkids. There's no doubt about that. And we have to find a way to move forward together to see that our city needs these alternatives and these changes. Seattle is not slowing down, and it's not going to quit growing. And if we want it to be that city that is just and welcoming and diverse, we have to make these changes. So with that, I'm proud to introduce someone who's been advocating for those things for a very long time, whose neighborhood we're kind of in. Mike O'Brien, the stage is yours.
You know, Mayor, your words have been really inspiring, and it is so true what you've said about how we need to grow as a city. It's not easy, but it's really great. I'm just going to reiterate a couple points that have been made because there's no points left to be made that haven't been touched on by you all. I'll start with climate. As you've heard, you know, living in a 600 plus square foot unit is very energy efficient. Living in a dense city like this, close to where you meet your needs, means you have to rely less on the automobile. So by making this choice, you are doing some amazing things for the climate. I'm really grateful. I see Emily's got a Green New Deal shirt on, and I want to be really clear. Land use policy like this is part of what a sustainable city looks like. And this is the types of things we need to do if we want to be part of the Green New Deal. And doing things that are good for climate are also good for so many other things. I mean, how cool that you guys get to see your grandma and grandpa every single day.
Only after they eat their breakfast.
Only after they eat their breakfast. I got that. I wish that I grew up in a place where I could see my grandma and grandpa every single day. And I'm not yet a grandma and grandpa, or a grandpa yet. But hopefully in the next 10 years, maybe. And I imagine it would be just so awesome to be able to watch your grandkids grow up that close. And I do know about aging in place. I have some relatives in my family who are at that place where it's hard. And having options like this is really amazing. You know, when you do things that are right for the climate, you do things that are right for our communities and families too often. And this is what we're seeing here. So it's a great step. I want to just mention briefly about where we are in this process and the roles we play, because the mayor has said some really great things that I'm thrilled to be standing with you on. The legislative process will wrap up in a few moments, hopefully, when you sign that document, and we'll have a new code in place, and that is a necessary step. It's a good thing to do, but that alone will not transform our city in really positive ways. This is going to require all sorts of executive action. I'm so excited to see the executive order you signed and the commitment. Frankly, I think I've been working on this for a number of years before Mayor Durkan was mayor, but from our very first conversations, you have made it very clear to me that in addition to what we're doing from a land use perspective, you really wanted to make sure that financing was available, that the regulatory tools, the administrative tools were in place to allow this to happen. And so that is the difference between a good piece of legislation and actually making a difference in our communities is what we're about to embark on. So thanks for your commitment for that. And I want to just reiterate how grateful I am. Matt, you said my vision and persistence. I'll accept persistence. The vision I inherited from all of you. You all are the thought leaders and folks out in the community who have said, we want to do this. How can you craft legislation? And my role was merely to listen and copy what you've done and be a little persistent. And I could relax in a few moments when we sign that. So thank you all so much for all your work. And Mayor, thanks for your leadership on this. I really appreciate it. I think you should.
Should?
You think she should sign it?
What do you guys think? All right. You guys want to come while I do it? Is that allowed? Is that all right? Yeah. Come on. Come on, guys, gather around. This is your bill.
Right next to the mayor.
Come on in.
Look, she's going to sign.
Isn't that cool? Now, it's silly, but they have me sign with multiple pens. I won't use them all, but then people can say they actually had a pen from when I was signed. It's cool. So first we will make the law the law. Where's Mike?
Right
After
here.
all these years.
Thank you so much. Worked 5 years for that.
And it even works.
Thank you.
Where's the family? Thank you for letting us. It's
Our
really.
pleasure.
I'm gonna let everyone else fight over them. We now have a law in place. And I will also sign the executive order. The idea here is we want to make it as easy as possible for people. We will get some of the best, greatest minds help us come up with online plans. And if you pick one of those online plans, we're going to work that you can get your permit in 30 days, not 2 years.
Goodness.
We've got to push through these barriers and make sure that we're making more affordable housing as accessible as we can for everybody. Executive order is signed. We begin implementation today, right? Good job, guys. You did it. All right. So Mike and I, Councilmember O'Brien and I and others are welcome to take a few questions if people have them. But if you have none,
Mayor, obviously parking is at a premium in this city. It's difficult to find parking. With the additional housing, how do you plan on handling the additional cars and vehicles that come along with additional housing?
yep, it's actually one of the things that's called out in the executive order. We're going to first do a baseline assessment to see where the city exists today, how many backyard cottages we have, what the needs of those people are, and then on an annual basis, one of the factors we're looking at is parking. I actually believe that as we improve transit, we have seen more people use transit than ever before. And if we also improve the other multimodal infrastructure, biking and pedestrian, people will do that as well. One reason we need this alternative is we need more people who can live close to their jobs or their schools or their families, and they're not having to get in their cars and drive. So I think that we will be monitoring it. We understand it's a concern, and if we end up seeing that there is an issue, then we can deal with it. But our baseline assessment is what we looked at. We don't believe that that will be the kind of barrier that people think that it is. All right. Thank you very much, everyone, and congratulations to all the advocates for all the work you've done.